Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a roast 2A, so it's like 1.5 recipes. How is it 1.5 recipes, Amber? That doesn't make sense. I'll tell you, friends. We're gonna make a roast. We're gonna do a Mississippi roast, which if you haven't had that, that's where you do the roast with the brown gravy and the peperoncinis. If you haven't had that, like, go buy a roast and make this. It is delicious. I made it 2 days ago and I will show that footage here in a minute. And today we are going to take the same roast that's already been shredded and cooked and we are going to reimagine it into a shepherd's pie. Sometimes leftovers can be boring, so just putting a little bit of a different spin on it can make it something that you enjoy all over again. So this is just something to help get your creative juices flowing. Look at what you have in the fridge. How can I redo that and make some magic, baby? So let's get into the footage. I actually started my roast by prepping my onion and carrot first, which isn't actually going to be used until I'm ready to make the shepherd's pie. But since we're using an Instant Pot and it has that saute feature, I can go ahead and brown my carrots and onions before doing the roast, and then I don't have to worry about adding a dirty dish on shepherd's pie day. So I cut these carrots and onions into bite-sized pieces. Meanwhile, I do have half a tablespoon of oil heating over there in the Instant Pot. I have it on the high setting. I'm adding these carrots to a bowl that I'm also gonna throw some onion in. I'm just showing you here that it is bite-sized pieces because this is gonna be mixed in with your shepherd's pie. You don't want half a carrot to take a bite of. I had 2 small onions, so I went ahead and did both of those. You could do 1 medium onion. I'm adding it to the bowl with a carrot so I can move it over to the pot, throw it in, add some salt and pepper, and saute it until it's nice and soft. Meanwhile, I'm gonna make that lovely juice that the roast is gonna cook in. I used half a cup of water, 1/4 of a cup of the peperoncini juice, 1 packet of brown gravy, and 1 packet of ranch dressing. I don't have the packet, so that is 3 tablespoons from this nifty little jar. If you want a money-saving tip and you use ranch a lot, this jar is really helpful. I'm gonna mix them together really well, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add my peperoncinis into this mixture. That way, when my roast is ready, I can just pour it all over it. I added 6 peperoncinis. We normally like 8, but I ran out. So if you like the flavor of peperoncinis, I'd go with 8. If you're not sure, start with 6. I stirred my carrots, and then I'm coming back to salt and pepper my roast. Give this a generous helping of salt and pepper because this is a lot of meat. So you really want to make sure those flavors pop, and that's what salt and pepper does. You're going to do both sides of your roast, making sure that you don't have any packaging stuck to your roast. Yeah, peekaboo. And then you're going to salt and pepper this side as well. And then when your carrots are soft and your onions are translucent, you're going to remove those from the Instant Pot. And now we're going to add another half a tablespoon of oil. Make sure you're picking an oil that can do higher heat, like avocado oil or olive oil, not extra virgin olive oil. And now we're going to sear both sides of this pot roast. Now, you do not have to do this step. If you're in a hurry and you want to put the roast and the sauce and just go about your day, you can absolutely do that. But adding a little bit of that brown on the outside just helps add a little bit more flavor, and it's something I like to do. Let it cook for about 3 or 4 minutes and then flip it over. I could have gotten mine a little more brown, but I was kind of in a hurry, so I didn't bother. I cooked it for 4 minutes before adding this part right here. Make sure you scrape out all the delicious bits of this brown gravy and ranch. And then we're going to put our lid on, making sure it's on venting since we're using this as an Instant Pot. I like to also make sure that my peppers are mostly on top of the roast. As they cook, they'll release those juices and just kind of baste the roast. And this is going to cook for a solid 8 hours, guys. Once your carrots have cooled down, go ahead and store those in the fridge. I'm going to be mixing them in with my leftover roast later. While that Instant Pot is doing all the hard work for me, I have time to go for a walk. And now we are going to cut our zucchinis. I cut them in half. I did a really bad job cutting it in half. And then I cut it into half moons. I cooked 2 zucchinis total in the air fryer. going to add Cavender's Greek seasoning. This basically tastes good on everything. And some avocado oil. Use any kind of oil spray you have, like olive oil or whatever you like. I'm just gonna give it a toss. Sprinkle a tiny bit more. And I'm gonna put it in for 380 for 10 minutes and check on them then. Sometimes you have bigger pieces, they need to go a little bit longer. Sometimes you can a little smaller and they're done at 8 minutes. So it really is just kind of check on it and shake them around and see that it's cooked to your liking. Sometimes, like I like mine a little bit less firm, and you might like yours more firm. While those zucchini cook for the 10 minutes, I am going to wash and chop up my potatoes. I'm using 4 potatoes here. That will do about 3 of us for dinner because some of those potatoes were pretty small. I'm just cutting them all into equal size pieces. That way I can throw them in the air fryer. It is really hot in Texas, so if I can not turn on my oven, I'm pretty happy about that. So I did a tablespoon of oil, and I'm going to add in this potato roast packet. I find this in the produce section of my grocery store. If you can find it, it's delicious. If not, salt and pepper is good too. Now all I have to do is wait for the zucchini to be done. And voila, it's done. It did take the 10 minutes for me and those larger size pieces. I'm going to move those over to a bowl and add my potatoes in once I figure a way to get those out whilst holding my phone. The struggle, the struggle. What do I do? Panic. Mayday. Oh God, find a spatula. Found a spoon. Everything's going to be okay, guys. Wow, thank goodness. I know this is a riveting TV. Now add your potatoes into the air fryer and cook them at 390 for 20 minutes, making sure to shake them a couple times. You have seen me do this several times because I eat potatoes several times a week. That's just how I like it. Hey, I just threw my potatoes in the air fryer. You can absolutely do the potatoes and the zucchini in the oven. However, it's 100 degrees here. And I don't really want to warm up my house with a really hot oven, so I'm just doing them both in the air fryer since I have about 30 minutes before my pork is ready. I did check it and it did need that last little bit, so it is going to take the full 8 hours. And yeah, I just got back from a walk, so I'm looking a little rough, but it's okay. 8 hours has been up and it is time to shred this lovely beef roast. I'm just using 2 forks here and shredding it. As I find large chunks of fat, I am pulling it aside and putting it in a bowl that I have next to this Instant Pot and throwing that away. And I'm just keeping the nice tasty meat and throwing away all the excess fat. Here is the first meal. This is delicious. Even my 9-year-old who eats almost nothing that we eat likes this. Now, zucchini and potatoes are both 0 points for me. So this whole plate is 6 points, plus I get a point back for the zucchini. And it would be 5 points if I just use spray oil, but I decided to go ahead and put a little bit more oil on my potatoes and just take the point for it. So this is a really good, like, point budget friendly meal. And you are not gonna feel like you are on a diet at all, because it's just real delicious food. I love zucchini this way. A lot of times at lunch, if I have something random to eat and I have zucchini in there, I can just throw it in the air fryer and get a point back. So, keep watching the video and you will see how I will transform this recipe into a shepherd's pie. Sometimes it can be a little annoying to have the same thing over and over again. So if you can kind of reimagine your leftovers, it makes it a little bit more interesting. So we're gonna use those carrots you already saw cooked up. We're gonna add that to the meat and then put it with mashed potatoes on top and bake it, and it's gonna be delicious. So stay tuned. Once the leftover roast was cooled down, I added my cooled down carrots and onion to it and mixed it up. That way the next time I was ready to cook, this mixture is already ready. This is going to be the base that we add mashed potatoes to make our shepherd's pie. If you didn't have time to do your carrots and onion on this day, don't worry. You can always do it the day you're doing the shepherd's pie. It's just going to be more effort that second day. It's time for meal number 2. Yay! We're going to make shepherd's pie today. First, we had to start with our mashed potatoes. Let's make some mashed potatoes for our shepherd's pie. I have about 5 servings of meat left, so I want to make about 5 servings of mashed potatoes. I want my mashed potatoes to be creamy and flavorful, but without adding a ton of fat. So let's see if we can make that happen. And it's going to be put on top of that roast and be delicious anyway. I am starting off with 4 medium-sized potatoes that I have already peeled and washed. This kitchen is terrible for filming my face and me working at the same time because cabinets. So we're gonna give this angle a try. You can let me know how you like it. Knife. I'm just gonna cut these into smaller pieces so it cooks faster. I've seen where people just put the whole thing in there and let it cook longer. I just never do that. I don't mind cutting, so. If you hate to cut, just put your whole potatoes in there. I cut them just like I was going to throw them in the air fryer, and you've already seen me do that. The only difference is this time I pulled potatoes. So I don't think you need a close-up today. You know how to cut a darn potato? I'm putting these straight into just room temperature water. If your potatoes sit out without being covered in water, they'll start turning brown. So if you've ever noticed your potatoes have like this weird brown hue, it's because you need to get those bad boys into some water. When I'm making large batches, I'll actually keep my cut whole, peeled potatoes in water, and I'll just fish them out as I'm ready to cut them so that they don't go bad or don't turn brown. They're not bad. They just not the most appetizing. You can still eat them when they turn brown. And really the only thing you are looking for at this point is that they are cut in similar sizes so that they all cook about the same time. So all my potatoes are in the water. I'm gonna take a 3-finger pinch of salt and just sprinkle that in. I'm gonna bring this to a boil, then take it down to a simmer and cook it for 15 to 20 minutes, just depending on how large your potatoes are. Just make sure that they are fork tender. I just checked my potatoes by scooping some out, using a fork and stabbing it. When it can break through easily, they're ready. But before I drain these potatoes, I'm going to just scoop some of this starchy water right up. That way I can use this to thin out my mashed potatoes without adding any extra points. So let's drain these suckers. Potatoes are sitting in the colander in the sink, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of butter. And let that melt. And then I'm gonna add 1 clove of garlic that I'm going to press in there. You can mince it, do it however you like. When you are making things that you want to be lower in fat or just a little bit healthier version, think about things that can add a ton of flavor without adding many calories, like garlic and herbs. If I had chives, I would absolutely be adding chives to this. I'm just gonna cook this garlic in this butter so I don't have raw garlic bits. I'm just gonna do that for 30 seconds to 1 minute, just depending on your stove. You do not want your garlic to burn. That's when it tastes bitter. All right, this is starting to turn brown and smell amazing. So at this moment, I'm gonna add 1/3 cup of our starchy water that we got from our potatoes. That's gonna stop that cooking really quickly, and then it's also gonna help me dissolve 3/4 of a teaspoon of this Better Than Bouillon chicken. If you don't know what that is, this is what it looks like. I like this to add flavor to a lot of things I cook. And we're just gonna dissolve that into that starchy water. And now's the time where we can add our potatoes back in now that there's no clumps of that better than bouillon. To the top of these, I'm gonna add a teaspoon of Lawry's seasoning salt. I have no need to go low on salt. I don't have any hypertension or anything like that. If you do, just plan accordingly. I'm gonna mash these. And keep your heat on low while you do this. Now at this point, we have some good flavor because we have the better than bouillon, we have Lawry's seasoning, we have garlic, we have a little bit of butter, but now we need some creaminess. So I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of light sour cream. I just like the flavor of sour cream in my potatoes. I do this even when I'm not trying to lose weight or anything. And I'm also gonna add some oat milk. This is 1/2 cup. I'm gonna start small. I'm gonna add about half of that and just see where we are. This is a 30-calorie oat milk that is unsweetened. Make sure you're not adding a vanilla flavor to it, because ew. You can use almond milk or you can use regular milk. It's just gonna change your points. So these points for me, if I eat 1/5 of these potatoes, if I make them exactly how I have them entered in so far, it will be 1 point for me because potatoes are free. If it's not a free food for you, then these potatoes would be 4 points for a serving. That already looks pretty good. So I'm gonna taste it and then decide if I want the rest of that oat milk or if I just want some of the starchy water. Probably need some pepper. Y'all, those have really good flavor. I'm just gonna add some freshly ground pepper. I'm gonna add a little bit more of that oat milk just because I can already tell it's getting a little dry again. That actually, I'm gonna click it up so I get a little bit thicker chunks of pepper. There we go. A little bit more. Let's just add the whole thing. So that was a whole 1/2 cup of oat milk. Yep, those are super creamy. Did not skimp on the potato texture. You know, sometimes you don't want a dry potato. You can still have that lovely moist potato, even if you're not adding a bunch of heavy cream or whatever you use. Gonna try another bite. That is really good. If I were eating this by itself, I might add a little bit of Laughing Cow or something like that, just to help bulk up that texture a little bit, or maybe even more sour cream. But it has a really good flavor. You can really taste that extra like layer of the chicken bouillon. You couldn't tell me that that's what that was, but you would notice a difference between adding it and not adding it, as well as that garlic. And then the Lawry's seasoning salt for me for potatoes is just a really good complementary seasoning for it. Pioneer Woman does her potatoes with that, and that's when I first started using it back in the day, whenever I started making my potatoes like her, and it is good. She also uses cream cheese instead of sour cream. So if you wanted to use that, go for it. Make it however you like it. You have taste buds, so taste it and make it according to your own taste. I like this, especially when it's going on top of that, you know, nice gravy from the meat. I think it's gonna be a really good complementary pair. And for the whole serving with my meat plus my potato is only going to be 6 points for the meal. And it is gonna be delicious. It's not gonna feel like diet food. So yeah, I'm going to let these potatoes cool down before I add it to the top of my meat, just because it's actually a couple hours before dinner time. I just wanted to go ahead and film this while I have some good light in my kitchen because it can be a struggle in here. So I will see you when it's time to actually throw together the rest of this meal. Okay, so it's much later in the day and I have let both of these, my meat and my mashed potatoes, sit out for about 20 minutes so they're not super cold. And I have my oven preheating to 375. I'm going to take a pie dish because we're doing shepherd's pie, so why the heck not? I'm gonna add my meat to the bottom. So this would be the time where if you didn't already have your carrots and onions made, you'd go ahead and do that and then mix it in with your meat. I'll try to show you instead of myself. Blah, blah. Show you. And I am just going to take, I have this offset spatula. We're just going to use it to like push all the meat down. You could use a spoon or whatever you have. Mashed potato time. All right. This is where the spatula comes in handy. Just do it like it's frosting. I'm gonna put this in the oven just like this. I'm gonna let this warm up for about 25 minutes and then I'm gonna check it. As long as my meat is warm and my potatoes are warm, then we are ready to eat because all of this has been cooked in advance. So you don't actually have to worry about it being the right amount of doneness. I was originally gonna make a side of vegetables of this, but honestly, I'm not that hungry. So I think the 1/5 of this is gonna be plenty of food. If you're hungry, please add a green vegetable and get a point back. But I don't need the point back. I'm still within my points and I'm gonna eat until I'm not hungry. So we're gonna check this in 25 minutes. I wish there was smell-o-vision because this smells so stinking good. It just came out of the oven, so as my normal ritual, I will now burn myself. Oh yeah. This is so good. Seriously, guys, both of these recipes are bomb. Do people even say that anymore? I don't know, but it's so good. There is no other word. It's bomb. So, in the description box, you will find the links for these recipes. On this shepherd's pie, I'm going to leave the recipe for the roast and for the mashed potatoes. And you can just put it together yourself in your little food log. I hope you all have a great day. I want to eat this so bad, so I'm gonna say bye now.